when we go to church, when we serve in church, when we speak the word of God, we wear crosses. The symbol of evil has now been brought out of the ashes, and goodness has come out of the symbol of evil. Once again, our good friend, the Apostle Paul, says this in 1 Corinthians. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. Last month, on Palm Sunday, or rather after Easter Sunday, Christianity Today ran a story about a man in Egypt called Nassim Fahim. Nassim was a Coptic Christian. He was a guard who works at St. Mark's Cathedral in Alexandria, Egypt. So on Palm Sunday, what Nassim would do every Sunday, he would do his security job and he would check people through the gates. You know, if they look suspicious, he would put them through a metal detector. Otherwise, he would let them in after checking their bags. So on Palm Sunday, Nassim was doing his job, and he looked at one particular person who looked suspicious. And he said, wait, I would like you to go through the metal detector. And so the person walked through the metal detector. And 1 second after he walked through, kaboom! And there was a big explosion at the gate of the cathedral. Nassim was probably one of the first to die, along with many other people at the cathedral. But the brave and the wise actions of Nassim saved many dozens more in the cathedral who were worshipping at that point of time. So there was a suicide bomber who Nassim had picked out and was able to, well, sadly, get him to do what he needed to do further away from the crowd. So days after Nassim's death, one of the biggest talk show in Egypt, the equivalent of maybe Jimmy Fallon or something in the States, they had an interview with the family and the wife of Nassim. So the interviewer was talking to the wife and asking her, so what do you feel about this? And the wife said this, I am not angry at the one who did this. I'm telling him, may God forgive you. And we also forgive you. Believe me, we forgive you. You put my husband in a place I could never dream of. And then there was 12 seconds of awkward, excruciating silence on national television, which was live. And the talk show host, a very prominent talk show host, Amr the Adib, finally pulled together his courage, and with a crack in his voice, he responded by saying this, the Copts of Egypt are made of steel. Adib is a Muslim. And he continues to say this. How great is this forgiveness you have? If it were my father, I could never say this. But this is their faith and religious conviction. Him, along with millions of other people in Egypt, watched the show live. And I believe millions of Muslims too was able to see and understand what has happened and hear from a Christian relating her response to the incident. But what was done to Nassim is evil. It was bad. But is God able to bring good out of evil? I believe so. Was God able to minister or begin to minister to millions of Muslims watching that show and that talk show at that point in time? I believe so. But think about some of the evil that has been done to you and around you. Abuses, violence. Maybe you were fired unjustly. Maybe you were isolated in school. Maybe somebody beat you when you didn't deserve it. Maybe your parents split up in a time where you least suspected and it still has repercussion in your life today. Have you been able to make sense of some of this evil that has been done to you? You might not have arrived at the same conviction as Joseph. Well, it took Joseph many years before he finally was able to look back at the evil that was done on him and said, well, it was for good. In Genesis, when Joseph was going through those experiences, he never once said, aha, it was all for good. I'm suffering in prison and I'm thrown and I'm beat up right now because it was good. He had to wait for many years before he looked back and say, that was all for good. So you might not have arrived at the same conclusion as Joseph right now. But you can share the same confidence that Joseph has in this good God. In that God intends good and not evil for his people. In that God is more powerful than any evil that is being done in you and around you today. In that God can bring good out of evil. The Lord